take a few minutes of quiet time before we get started. So I invite you to find a seat in which you're comfortable, but also a seat that encourages being awake. Often we use the metaphor of the seat of dignity. So sitting upright, nice straight back, long neck, shoulders relaxed and back. And really it's about finding a seat that works for you. So those are the principles we're trying to achieve in whatever posture we assume. So having said that, I invite you now to close your eyes or gaze gently down in front of you. Taking this opportunity to arrive, to leave the busyness of the day outside those doors, to settle into this place at this time, in this moment, to spend a little time with ourselves. And so checking in with our environment, noticing sounds that might be in this room. Some near, some far. Perhaps sounds beyond this room. Not so much seeking sound, but simply noticing what is there as it comes and goes and changes. And then bringing the attention from the sensation of sound to the body, noticing the body in the chair, perhaps on the table, the floor, perhaps the body touching the body. And perhaps there's little aches and pains and areas of discomfort, and maybe some adjustment in our sitting can correct that. But again, simply noticing what is there. And then moving the attention from the sensation of sound and the body to the breath, to the in-breath and the out-breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Bringing the attention to the area of the nose. Noticing how on the in-breath the air seems cool, and on the out-breath the air seems warm. Cool coming in and warm going out. The felt experience of the breath in and out. Just simply allowing the breath to breathe. Through no effort of our own, we breathe. Steady, easy, natural. So allowing the breath to settle into the body. Our breath, our body. The in-breath and the out-breath. And in bringing the mind to the breath and to the body, we bring the mind into the present, into the here and the now, into the moment, one moment at a time. And if the mind wanders, and it will, we can always come back to the breath, the in-breath and the out-breath. So taking just a moment to pay attention to that breath, your breath. The felt experience of the breath in the body. Monday. Now today we're going to talk about the body, but I know last week I gave some of you the mindfulness challenge, and I wonder if you went about that, if you found yourself being a little hard on yourself. But today we're going to talk about the body. And, excuse me. So when we talked about mindfulness having three qualities. We talked about intention, attitude, and attention. So what is my intention? What is my purpose that I bring to this situation? And we want to be deliberate. We want it to be a choice. We're not operating on automatic pilot. What I'm doing is out of awareness, I am choosing in this situation an intention. So mindfulness is intentional. It's a choice. The second quality of mindfulness is attitude. What attitude do I bring to this particular situation? And of course, it begins with recognizing what attitude do I currently have. Because I may have something going on that could be very powerfully influence what I'm going to do. And so I have to acknowledge that, and then out of that choose what attitude I want. And then the third quality is paying attention. Paying attention to the object of my attention. In the case of the meditation, it might be my breath. In the case of my work, it might be my work. It might be that person I'm talking to. It might be that paper I'm writing. And so that is the object of my attention. And what really makes mindfulness is when I'm distracted from what I'm doing, I notice it, I acknowledge it, and then once again, I pay attention to what I'm doing. And that's how we develop mindfulness muscle. That's how mindfulness becomes more automatic. That's how we get better at choosing to be mindful. We live life less on automatic pilot. So that's fundamentally how mindfulness works. So now we're talking about mindfulness in the body. Mindfulness in the body. So in terms of attention, is my intention with my body as a source of information or as a source of learning? Is my attitude towards my body one of openness or curiosity? And in terms of attention, is it a willingness to be with my body? Or is my intention to numb my body, or to please it, or to ignore it, or have an attitude of disgust? And as far as my attitude, is it one of dismay or unhappiness? And how much attention do I really pay to my body? Do I live in my head, for example? There's a book written called The Dubliner by James Joyce. And there's a line in that book that is very powerful and relevant to what we're doing here today. And Mr. Duffy was a fellow who chose to live in as much isolation as he possibly could. So he moved to a place in Ireland that was as remote as it could possibly be. And I don't know where in the book because I haven't read it. I just know about the book. But there's a line in there that says, Mr. Duffy lived a short distance from his body. Mr. Duffy lived a short distance from his body. Where are you in relation to your body? And so that is kind of the fundamental question that we're answering today. So today we're going to talk about spending time with our bodies, the importance of being in our body. Because our body has information. You know, when we begin to look at the elements of awareness, of consciousness, we talk about our senses, okay? The sense of touch, the sense of smell, and so on. And we look at our thoughts and our feelings. And all of this is important information. And the more of that information we have, the better position we are to make good choices, right? Well, the body is a powerful source of information. And the body is linked to thoughts and feelings, just as thoughts and feelings are linked to the body. So as we touch one element of our awareness, we may trigger awareness in another. So as a practical matter, the body is a wonderful source of information. All right. There's some interesting facts about the body. The body itself, center of gravity, is actually in the area of the core, okay? It's in this area here. This is where the body's actual center of gravity is. It's not up here, it's not down here, it's here, okay? Another really interesting fact is that there are more neural pathways and nerve endings by far between the heart and the brain than any other organ in the body, by far. Interesting. Not only the fact that it's heart, but look where the heart is located, right about here. Pretty darn close to this thing we call the core. This is also the area in which we breathe. When we take a full breath in and a full breath out, we feel from the bottom up. We feel in this area first. And then we empty and end here. So we breathe from here, our heart is here, our core is here. This is the center of gravity for our body. But where is the center of gravity for most of us? Where is that center of gravity? A couple of expressions that are really interesting that help to, I think, to illuminate this are expressions like, if you ever said something like, I'm all choked up. What does that mean, I'm all choked up? Okay. So there's something from here coming up to here, and it's caught here, right? How about this expression? It's off the top of your head. Okay, so what we're doing, we're asking for thinking, right? How about the one, you need to get it out of your system? What do we mean by that expression? Okay, is that something like, being all choked up? How about when we say he really shared from the heart? It was really from the heart. Another one is that was gut level. Gut level. So from the heart in the body, right? Gut level in the body. How about the feeling of being overwhelmed? Okay, that sense of being overwhelmed. Don't we really experience that in the body and in the emotion? And there's a very deep connection between the body and the emotion. As you begin to get in touch with your body and experience emotions, you will find that the emotions tend to originate and expand from the body out and up. It isn't a top-down phenomena. It's kind of a bottom-up phenomena. So, what we want to do then is, as a practical matter, is we want to be very intentional about the way we are with our bodies. But if you're anything like me, I have issues with my body and my identity. It's not an easy thing to be present for our bodies. In fact, in this culture, there's a word to describe that, and it's called disembodiment. Disembodiment. That we really live like Mr. Duffy outside of our bodies, or we live in denial of our bodies. And our culture puts so much expectations on us in terms of what our body looks and the value of that body in terms of who we are and what our worth is. Okay? So it's a challenging thing to do. But I want to be intentional. I want to be open to the sensations in my body. Okay? I want to see what there is that I can learn. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to do a little activity that begins this process. And we're going to do what's called a body scan. Okay? A body scan. And it's a type of meditation. It's definitely being mindful. Okay? And it's a way of taking a look at our body. But the thing about mindfulness is that we are going to be mindful and we are going to come across something that makes us really uncomfortable, such as life. Okay? Such as life. And so the challenge is when we come across something uncomfortable, how do we deal with it? If we deal with it on automatic pilot, what we do is we tend to avoid it. Okay? Or try to deal with it in some way that doesn't really make it go away. But if we're mindful and we're willing to be with it, at least for a little bit, then things begin to change. Now what we know about mindfulness and what the research is really clear on is that this is kind of the way it works. As I'm paying attention to something, and as these uncomfortable things come up, if I acknowledge them and somehow allow for them, as best I can, it may come and go, that if I can do that, then what will happen is that stuff will begin to release. We will tend to let go. We tend to allow for it. And so there's kind of a self-correcting thing that goes on by simply allowing it to be. Anytime we throw that energy at something, then what it does, it just keeps it around. It's kind of like the analogy of the two hungry wolves. We have the angry wolf, the fearful wolf, and then we have the healthy wolf. And so when you feed this angry wolf, even with good intentions, you're just keeping that baby around. But if you don't feed it, you acknowledge it, it's there, and you're kind of with it, and you feel it, don't like it, but you move on, then he won't die, but he'll starve, okay? So you keep feeding the loving wolf, ignore this one. And the way you ignore it is to acknowledge it. So that's no less true with my body. I know for me, I have real issues with pain. I've had a laminectomy in my neck, a fusion on my back. I've always had a preoccupation with my body. I used to be really fat and roly-poly, and as a kid growing up, I got a lot of insults based on my appearance and how big I was and short I was. Thankfully, I grew. So I know what that's like, you know, and pain is a scary thing, because when we start experiencing emotional pain or physical pain, then all kinds of thoughts come up. You know, we're worried about our future and this and that, and it can really grow into quite a thing, can't it? Okay? So when we experience discomfort anywhere, our natural tendency is to kind of want to do something about it. Well, the best thing we can do about it really is to kind of just be willing to like be with it, at least a little bit. And a little bit at a time, it's not so bad. Not that we don't do other things. Not that we don't other things. But that works, and the science is clear on that. So what we're going to do is just simply pay attention to our body for a few minutes. Okay, it's another form of meditation. So what I'd like you to do is to, once again, to put down your food and drink, and it won't take too long, so you'll have an opportunity to finish it. And again, I invite you to find a posture that is comfortable for you, that encourages alertness. So, let's do it. So bringing the attention to the breath, the in-breath and the out-breath. Perhaps noticing how with the in-breath, the breath tends to start in the area of the stomach and abdomen, and then that area fills, and then the chest fills, and the whole trunk fills. And then on the out-breath, you might notice how you first start emptying in the area of the chest and then down in the abdomen. So noticing that kind of that filling and emptying of the upper body with the breath. A wonderful, expansive breath in and out. And so now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take that attention you're giving to the breath, and I'd like you to go to your feet. I'd like you to bring your attention to the bottoms of your feet. And as you're paying attention to the bottom of your feet, you might notice the area surrounding the heels, down through the arches and the sides of the arches, into the ball of the foot. You might even notice what areas of the foot are actually contacting the floor, what aren't. And then bringing the awareness to the sides of the foot and the top of the foot. Up into the area of the ankle, around the ankle. And down and across into the area of the toes. Perhaps noticing the space between the toes. Maybe even noticing the toes and sensation in the toes, or not. Again, we're simply paying attention to what is there, not trying to make anything happen. And so then being aware of the foot, the feet as a whole. And then bringing that awareness to the area of the ankles. Perhaps noticing the mechanism, the joint of the ankle, the bone, the structure. And then bringing that awareness into the area of the lower leg, the shin, the calves, the sides of the leg. You might even notice the surface, or perhaps the insides. Again, it's different for each of us. There may be no feeling at all. And then bring in the area of the knees, the front, the back. For some of us, the knees are an area of pain or discomfort. So we acknowledge it. And then bringing the attention to the upper leg, the whole upper leg, the surface of the whole upper leg, the insides of the whole upper leg, all the way from the knee, all the way up into the groin and hips. And then bringing that same attention to the whole leg, both legs, all the way from the bottom of the feet, the full length, full expanse of the legs, all the way up into the groin and the hips. So now, without ignoring, please bring the attention to the area of the abdomen. And into the area of the stomach. Up to the diaphragm. Perhaps you notice sensation on the outside, perhaps it's on the inside. Perhaps there's activity inside of your body, even noises. And then all the way up into the area of the chest, the breast, up into the area of the collarbone, the neck, the shoulders. Perhaps noticing the breathing. And then bringing that awareness down into the area of the lower back, which again is an area for many of us where there's pain, stress, discomfort. And again, just noticing it and perhaps noticing any feelings that come up around it or any thoughts that come up around it and acknowledging them. But continuing to pay attention to the lower back and along with the middle back and sides and up along the spine, into the shoulder blades and upper back and shoulders. And perhaps noticing the entire upper trunk, outside, inside, a little, a lot. And then the area of the arms, the shoulders, the upper arm, the bicep, the tricep, down into the elbows. Another structural wonder. Into the forearms. And then bringing that attention all the way down into the wrist, into the hands. The top of the hands, the bottom of the hands. Noticing the air circulating around the fingers. Perhaps experiencing sensation in the hands all the way down into the fingertips, or not. And then bringing the attention to the entire body, from the top of or from the bottom of our neck all the way down to our feet and back. Whatever is there. Whatever needs to be noticed. And then bringing the awareness to the neck. Front of the neck, the back of the neck. Noticing that area below the chin, underneath the chin, around the neck. up into the area of the lower lip and the area surrounding the lips, perhaps even the lips themselves, outside, inside, in and around the gums, the teeth, the top of the mouth, the bottom of the mouth, the tongue. Noticing that upper lip right below the nose, the area surrounding the nose, the tip of the nose. Noticing the creases and curves and shape of the face. Expanding that awareness to the forehead and the cheeks and to the ears. And then around the side of the head, across the type of the head, and the head in its entirety, noticing the head. Maybe not only the surface, but the insides. Is it warm? Is it cool? Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Simply paying attention to what is there. And so now bringing the attention to the body as a whole, from the bottom of our feet to the top of our head. Feeling the surface of the body. Feeling the contents of the body. Perhaps it's just sensation without location. And then bringing the attention once again back to the breath. The in-breath and the out-breath. The felt experience of the breath in the body. One breath at a time. One moment at a time. Okay. Some of you have done this before, some of you haven't. So this is an opportunity for, if you like to share some of your experience. It's an opportunity to really learn from each other. But it's not necessary that you do that. But, as we found out last week, I feel as a professor I can take advantage of students and call on them. I wouldn't presume that with faculty or staff. But students, watch out. If you don't volunteer, I might call on you anyway. So would someone share what that was like for them? And again, you know, what it was. And it was yours, and it was important for you. Please.
Well, that was like one of the first times, so minus last week, I actually did stuff like that in my NC class. But like, it was really hard to like concentrate. Like when you first started like on your feet, it took me a while to like, I don't know, like find the bottom of my feet. And then after like you said it, then I found it. Like I was one step behind every time you said something. But it was, I don't know, it's relaxing.
Okay. Thank you. Now, there is an exception to the rule. I noticed that Todd and Julie are in the room, so I feel like I have the prerogative to pick on them as well. So, so I'll come back to you later. Okay. Anybody else, their experience? I bet somebody did.
Well, I started to do. But that was very relaxing because of that kind of goals and like I was feeling like I'm drifting away. It was nice to have a break. You know, just stop thinking about going through to-do list and just focusing on what is going inside.
It's really interesting is some people do the body scan and they fall asleep. And typically when I do it, if it's a long one, it's challenging. But other people will say, man, that is the most alive thing for me. You know, that's my favorite form of meditation. So I guess we each kind of find, you know, what works for us. But falling asleep, waking back up, and well, we kind of do that in life anyway. So, yeah, thank you for asking that and being willing to share that. Yes.
I guess my biggest thing is right now I feel really, really, like I took like an 8-hour nap, or like an 8-hour like full sleep, and I feel very awake right now.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, that's another possibility. We can be really awake or really tired. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Yes, the whole time, I mean, you really lost me. I just stayed on the breath. And when you're telling us to do everything else, I just kept focusing on every time I breathe in, have my stomach fill up first, and then my chest, and then I breathe out, have my chest go in from my stomach. I did that the whole time, but I found that interesting trying to do that, because you said it's like the levels. I tried to do it, separating each level. That's what I did.
So, could you explain what you mean by each level?
So you said when your airway, it starts,
Oh,
breathe in, it starts in your stomach, then your chest.
Yeah.
So I was trying to separate each of them.
Okay.
And just did that the whole time.
Yeah. So, if I might read your mind, probably incorrectly, what I heard you say that's what you were drawn to when you made the decision to stay with the breath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So at some level you knew this is where you kind of needed to be. Maybe because it felt good, maybe who knows, but yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Yep, it's your meditation, just like it's your life. Yeah. And you did choose to remain mindful. You maybe chose a little different direction, but you remained mindful. So you were intentional. That's great. Anybody else? Yeah, I noticed this morning when I was meditating, I'd had some digestive issues earlier in the day, and I noticed that when I was sitting, my body was very, very uncomfortable, very, very unpleasant, and I wanted to just get up and go. I didn't want to meditate anymore, or I wanted to do something other than feel it. And I also felt some discomfort in my leg related to my back, and so my inclination was to avoid it, or ignore it, or do something else. And I found myself in the meditation doing that some of the time, but I chose to just kind of like be with it, and it wasn't like that bad, you know, but I just kind of chose to be with it. And even though it didn't go away completely, I felt a lot more comfortable with it and I think it was because I was willing to just be with it for a little bit. And so sometimes I just have to sit with my body even though it doesn't feel right. Yeah. Anybody else? Todd? You knew it was coming. Todd, for those that don't know, he is the director of the Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning. And Julie is to his right, is, I guess your right-hand, it wouldn't be the right-hand man, would you? No. Yes, and so they're both from the Faculty Center. How about it, Todd? Yes, and as you may recall from your own experience, that the very first thing we do in the course is the body scan. And that becomes the homework for week 1. And that's for that very reason. Is what Jon Kabat-Zinn did when he developed this course. Jon Kabat-Zinn was an interesting guy. He was an MIT graduate in chemistry. That's where he was exposed to meditation, as were a lot of other people at that time. MIT is still a hotbed for that. And he went to the University of Massachusetts Medical School as a professor of medicine, where he taught chemistry. And I believe while meditating, he had this insight about how he could take some of what he learned about meditation, combine that with Western science, and come up with a program that could help people that are suffering from just suffering, that are in pain. And in this case, what it was patients who had chronic pain, who weren't managing it well, who tried, the different kinds of treatments that are available, including drugs and this kind of thing. They were kind of like people that were kind of like hopeless. And what he found immediately is through doing this course that they had two things happened. The first is they actually had less pain, and research shows that that does in fact happen. But more importantly, it changed their relationship to the pain. And you see, we put suffering on top of suffering. There's the suffering itself we experience from the physical pain, but this is all the thinking, feeling, and stuff we put of fear, the insecurity, and everything else, anger. It's all this other stuff that we put on it that causes suffering too. And the key to his program is got them to free up some of that suffering thinking. So he had immediate results. And so so he started with that. But interesting, stress is interesting. When we experience stress, 50 to 75% of all Americans report moderate to high stress. Where do we experience stress? We in our body. And we know there's a high correlation between stress and heart disease and stroke and other kinds of illness. So being willing to just be with that discomfort. And so what he did, and there's a video that was made by PBS quite a number of years ago with John Kabat-Zinn working with those people, and it shows them. And what he would do with those that had really limited movement, he would help them to take it to the edge, okay? And then when you got to the edge, he would have them visualize going beyond that edge. And in terms of being with discomfort, and I remember this because I have trained with him, he talked about how what you do is when you're experiencing that discomfort, when you're recognizing that, what you do is, in a sense, you do take it to the edge, you're with it as much as you can be, and then you can come back, and so it's not like you jump right in. That's not what it's all about. It's like, I'm going to make it happen. This is not about making it happen, folks. This is about letting it happen. That's the difference. Most of us think that the way to get things changed is to make it happen. But mindfulness, although intentional, you choose your intention, you choose your attitude, you have to make a choice to pay attention. It is some effort. But having done that, the rest is about letting it happen. It's about allowing. And that's a whole different way of thinking, especially for Westerners. Okay? Does that kind of get at your question, Todd? Yeah. Any other experiences? What we're really doing is we are training ourselves how to approach life on a day-to-day basis. I'm going about what I'm doing. I'm paying attention. I notice something. I may experience it as painful. I'm not ignoring it. I'm acknowledging it. But yet I continue to do what I'm doing. Now, can I continue to do what I'm doing without ignoring it, acknowledging it? Yes, I can. That's life. And so what we do with our body scan is what we do with our lives. The mindfulness we practice in this is something that we would want to practice in our daily lives. I notice a lot lately. I do physical therapy for my different ailments, and what I do is I've been really paying attention to my body, and I'm beginning to fine tune, and I'm beginning to find out what works and doesn't work. And yet I want to exercise, I want to eat right, and all of that. And so, but I try to work with what my body's telling me. And if I follow my body closely, then I'll probably get that balance is just right for me, and I'll probably be able to prolong my situation for many years beyond what I might if I weren't doing that. So the body is so incredibly informative, and that's really the point of this. We have different sources of information available to us. One is our thoughts, one is our feelings. We have sensations in our body. And it reminds me, in psychology and in social sciences, we have a term called congruence. And congruence says is when my thoughts and my feelings line up, and then when I take actions that I'm aware, I acknowledge both. And there's a lot of stuff that's going on with us emotionally that we aren't always in touch with. And as we begin to get in touch with our bodies, that can help us to elicit or discover those emotions. That's why we say things. What are we moved most by when it comes to communication? More often than not, it's by emotion, isn't it? We say things like he spoke from the heart, it's from the gut, or we found that very moving. We're not referring to intellectual stuff. And I'm not diminishing the importance of that, don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of stuff that's going on with our bodies and our emotions that would be helpful for us to know. That's all I'm saying. So the body is a great place to go, and the body and the breath is terrific, isn't it? Yes, yes. Keep in mind that we are our breath and are our body. So when we take on those qualities, when we have the qualities of the breath, we are those qualities. When we have the quality of the body, we are those qualities. And one of the things that can come about through meditation is stillness. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And to settle into that stillness can be very comforting and very reassuring. And then it becomes the foundation for being able to experience the stuff. Once I'm into that steadiness, that calmness, that stillness, then it becomes kind of a background or a context in which I can experience the more challenging stuff. Does that make sense? And that's what stability of the mind does. By paying attention, being distracted, notice what distracts me, coming back to paying attention, noticing the distraction, continuing to pay attention. That's what develops the stability of the mind. That's what allows us to settle into stillness. And then the stuff that can bubble up that really bugs us, and then we can hold it in awareness in a way that we could never hold it before, because finally we're a little bit still. Okay, that's what's going on here. Does that you follow the logic of that? And so that's what we're doing, is we're developing the ability to settle down, to get a little still, and to allow this stuff into awareness in a way that we can kind of be with it for a bit. And that's when the change happens. That's when the change happens. And that's why nowadays in therapy, particularly mindfulness-based therapy, cognitive therapy, the sessions always begin with, okay, first of all, let's get mindful. Let's become present. What's going on with me in this moment? What do we have here in this moment? So my challenge to you this week is, last week I had a challenge. This one is to spend a little time with your body. Now you can do this in unique ways. You can say, for example, today I'm just going to really notice my hand. You can look at your hand. Just notice your hand. And just notice, observe, and see what you notice. You might close your eyes and feel your hand. You can try that with your arm. Got the idea? Okay. Or you can go to an area that is uncomfortable for you. And then in noticing what thoughts and feelings come up around it. Keeping in mind that those thoughts and feelings that come up around it, those cause you to suffer too. That's psychological suffering. That's self-induced. And we can change that by acknowledging it. Okay, so pay attention to your body between now and then.